am Charmaine, 35 years old, and somehow still healing from wounds my family inflicted. As a successful software developer, I escaped their toxicity, but maintained occasional contact. Last Sunday, they invited me to an upscale brunch to catch up. Between mimosas and avocado toast, my mother leaned forward, smirking. "You know, Charmaine, you are lucky we even include you. Pity goes a long way." I simply sipped my coffee and smiled. That night, I logged in, disabled every family credit account, and emailed my lawyer about selling the cabin. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe if you have ever had to stand up to family who underestimated your worth. Growing up in Fairfield, Connecticut meant privilege to outsiders, but inside our sprawling colonial home, emotional coldness permeated every corner. Our 4-bedroom house, with its manicured lawn and heated swimming pool, was a fortress of expectations I could never quite meet. My childhood bedroom, painted pale blue at my mother Elaine's insistence, despite my preference for green, became my sanctuary and prison. From elementary school through high school, I maintained straight A's, joined honor societies, and captained the debate team. Yet my achievements collected dust while my brother Nathan received lavish praise for his mediocre baseball performance and average grades. At my high school graduation, where I delivered the valedictorian speech, my father Richard checked his BlackBerry throughout, and my mother later complained that my dress looked department store. "We expect excellence from you, Charmaine," my father would say dismissively whenever I showed him a perfect report card or academic award. "Nathan needs more encouragement. He is not naturally gifted like you." This backhanded compliment became their justification for emotional neglect. Our family wealth came from Richard Wilson Enterprises, a commercial real estate development company my father built from scratch in the 80s. By the time I was 10, the company owned shopping centers across 3 states. My mother, a former beauty queen from Virginia, dedicated herself to climbing social ladders. She served on charity boards not from compassion but for connections, and hosted dinner parties where I was showcased briefly like an exotic pet before being sent upstairs. The family cabin in Vermont represented our public image of wholesome togetherness. Nestled on Lake Champlain with 6 bedrooms and a private dock, it appeared in our Christmas cards and family legend as a place of happiness. In reality, weekends there meant my father working remotely, my mother planning social events on the phone, and Nathan playing video games while I read alone on the dock. One Thanksgiving when I was 12, I overheard my mother telling her sister on the phone, "Of course Charmaine is smart, but she lacks social graces. Nathan has that natural charm people gravitate toward." I stopped entering rooms after that without announcing myself first. When I received a full scholarship to MIT for computer science, my parents seemed almost disappointed. "We could have paid," my father said, as though my achievement diminished their importance. Nathan attended Boston College with mediocre grades, and our parents paid every expense plus an apartment off campus. During college, I developed financial acumen alongside my programming skills. I created a stock prediction algorithm for a class project that caught the attention of investment firms. By graduation, I had turned my scholarship, living stipend, into a modest investment portfolio through careful market plays. Ironically, this financial insight led to my complex entanglement with family money. After Nathan lost $40,000 in a single weekend trading penny stocks without research, my father asked me to keep an eye on things. This vague request evolved into me becoming the unofficial family financial advisor by my late 20s. I established trusts, managed investment accounts, optimized their tax strategies, and digitized their entire financial infrastructure. I automated bill payments for their properties, created secure access systems for their accounts, and built redundancies that only I fully understood, all while building my own career at a financial software firm where I eventually became senior developer. My own apartment in Cambridge remained deliberately modest despite my growing personal wealth. A 2-bedroom condo with industrial-style furnishings and walls lined with books became my true home. There, friends like Sophia and Jordan, who knew my real self, would gather for wine nights and honest conversations. In this chosen family, I found genuine connections my biological family never provided. Yet, I maintained contact with my parents and brother out of some stubborn hope that eventually they would see me. Really see me. Each birthday dinner, holiday gathering, and family event reopened wounds that never fully healed. I kept returning, managing their money, offering expertise they simultaneously relied on and dismissed. Charmaine has her little computer job, my mother would tell her friends at charity galas where I occasionally appeared. We are so proud she found something that suits her analytical mind. She would pat my hand while delivering these diminishing comments, making any objections seem oversensitive. My father maintained emotional distance through work obsession. His rare direct communications came through texts, asking for financial guidance or help with technological issues. Nathan, following the path cleared for him, joined our father in business despite lacking aptitude. His position as Vice President of Development existed in title only while junior employees handled his responsibilities. The irony never escaped me that despite being treated as insignificant, I controlled the digital infrastructure of their financial lives. Every password, every account access point, every automatic payment flowed through systems I created and maintained. They required my expertise while pretending it was trivial. This contradiction created an unsustainable tension that had been building for years before that fateful brunch. The invitation came through text message on a Wednesday afternoon while I was debugging code at work. Family brunch Sunday at Maison Bleu, 11 a.m. Your presence expected. No. Please, no question mark. My mother always communicated in imperatives when it came to family appearances. What she did not know was that I had recently discovered concerning transactions while performing routine maintenance on the family accounts. Nathan had withdrawn increasing amounts from his trust fund, with nearly $80,000 disappearing over 2 months. The transactions originated from ATMs near Mohegan Sun Casino in Connecticut. I had quietly investigated, discovering he had opened secret credit cards with astronomical balances. His gambling addiction explained his recent jittery behavior and constant requests for temporary loans from our parents. They remained oblivious, attributing his cash requests to his recent divorce settlement with his ex-wife, Vanessa. This discovery put me in an uncomfortable position. Revealing his addiction would cause family chaos, yet concealing it made me complicit. Additionally, my parents had recently decided to renovate the Vermont cabin without consulting me, despite my part ownership inherited from my grandmother. The renovation plans eliminated the library she had specifically designated for me in her will. These tensions simmered as I reluctantly agreed to brunch. Saturday night before the meeting, I prepared myself meticulously. I selected a charcoal gray sheath dress, conservative yet expensive enough to withstand my mother's scrutiny. I rehearsed neutral topics of conversation and set mental boundaries about what information I would share about my personal life. Sunday morning arrived with spring sunshine that belied my internal weather. I drove my modest Audi to Maison Bleu, an overpriced French bistro. My mother selected for its visibility among her social circle. The restaurant occupied prime real estate in Boston's Back Bay, with expansive windows allowing patrons to see and be seen. I arrived precisely on time to find my family already seated. My father looked distinguished in his tailored navy suit, silver hair, perfectly coiffed. My mother wore her signature pearls with an ivory linen dress, her blonde highlights freshly done. Nathan appeared haggard despite his expensive clothes, with shadows under his eyes and a slight tremor in his hands as he checked his phone constantly. "Charmaine, darling, 15 minutes early is on time," my mother said as I sat down, though I was exactly on time. This passive-aggressive greeting set the tone. The waiter approached immediately. "Welcome to Maison Bleu. May I start you with beverages?" "Mimosas for the table," my father declared without consultation. "Charmaine will have coffee. Black. She avoids alcohol because of her migraines." This was untrue. I avoided alcohol around them because I needed full faculties to navigate their dynamics. "Actually, I will have a sparkling water with lemon and coffee," I corrected quietly. My mother sighed dramatically, always the difficult one. Around us, other families engaged in genuine conversation. A father at the next table listened attentively to his teenage daughter. An elderly couple held hands across their table. These glimpses of authentic connection highlighted the performative nature of our gathering. The waiter returned with drinks, taking our breakfast orders. My mother criticized my choice of avocado toast as predictable, while praising Nathan for selecting steak and eggs, despite his obvious hangover. "How is the programming job?" my father asked, glancing at his watch. "Software development," I corrected gently. "My team just launched a new financial security platform that has been acquired by 3 major banks." "How nice," my mother interrupted. "Nathan just closed the Westfield development deal, $40 million. Nathan shifted uncomfortably. I knew from my access to the company accounts that the Westfield deal had fallen through weeks ago. Another lie maintained for appearances. "Congratulations," I offered neutrally, watching him avoid eye contact. The conversation continued with my mother dominating, discussing mutual friends, country club gossip, and subtle digs at my perpetual single status. Jennifer Wilson just got engaged. Her 3rd marriage. And here you are still waiting for your first. Though with your particular personality, perhaps independence suits you better. I noticed a young server watching our table with concerned eyes. She had probably witnessed similar family dynamics before and recognized the undercurrents. When she refilled my water, she offered a small, sympathetic smile. "We expect you at the cabin renovation reveal party next month," my mother announced suddenly. "We have invited everyone who matters." "I was not aware renovations had been approved," I replied carefully. "As a partial owner, I should have been consulted." My father waved dismissively. "Legal technicality. Your grandmother was sentimental. The renovations are necessary for modernization. The library was specifically designated for me in her will," I pointed out. "That musty room with all those books nobody reads, it is becoming a media room. Nathan needs space for entertaining clients," my mother declared. "Besides, you hardly visit anyway." I felt my chest tighten but maintained composure. "I visit monthly to maintain the property and accounts." Speaking of accounts, Nathan interjected nervously, "I might need some adjustments to my access levels." For business purposes, he wanted higher withdrawal limits to fund his gambling, I realized. Before I could respond, our food arrived temporarily, pausing the conversation. I noticed my mother exchange glances with my father, some unspoken communication passing between them. "Charmaine," my mother began after the server departed, her voice taking on the syrupy quality that always preceded her most cutting remarks. "We have been discussing your role in family matters." My father cleared his throat. "Your expertise has been valuable, but Nathan is taking a more active interest in the financial aspects of the business." Translation: they wanted to reduce my visibility into accounts to hide Nathan's problems. "I see," I replied, cutting my avocado toast into precise triangles. "That would require significant transitions. The systems are complex." "You always complicate things," my mother sighed. "Nathan has a financial advisor from Goldman Sachs now, much more professional arrangement." I knew this was a lie. No professional would approve Nathan's current financial behavior. The brunch continued with mounting tension, leading inexorably toward the moment that would finally break my long-suffering patience. The pivotal moment arrived as our plates were cleared. A family with young children was seated nearby, their genuine affection for each other painfully apparent. The father helped his daughter cut her pancakes while the mother listened intently to their son's animated story. My mother noticed my observation. "Some people are naturally suited for family life," she remarked pointedly. "It requires a certain warmth and flexibility." I sipped my now lukewarm coffee, saying nothing. "We are meeting with the interior designer for the cabin renovations on Tuesday," my father announced, checking emails on his phone. "The contractor estimates completion by July." "I would prefer if my designated space remained intact," I said quietly but firmly. "Grandmother Elise specifically wanted me to have that library." Nathan snorted. "You and those books. We need space people will actually use." "I use it," I countered. "I work remotely from there when maintaining the family accounts." About those accounts, my mother interjected. We feel it would be best if you transferred everything to Nathan's new financial team. It is inappropriate for you to have such access to family matters when you are so removed from our daily lives. The insinuation was clear. After years of managing their financial affairs without compensation or appreciation, I was being pushed aside because I might discover Nathan's gambling problem or object to their renovation plans. Is my involvement in family finances causing problems? I asked directly. My father finally looked up from his phone. We simply think clearer boundaries would benefit everyone. Your technical skills were useful during the digital transition, but professional management makes more sense now. Professional management, I repeated. Through Nathan's connection? My brother shifted uncomfortably. My guy is top tier. Harvard Business School. A blatant lie. I maintained my composure, though internally my thoughts raced. They wanted to remove my access because I knew too much, not because they had better options. Well, I said carefully, transferring the systems would require significant documentation. The security protocols are intricate. You always make everything so complicated, my mother sighed dramatically. This is exactly why family gatherings are so tense. Your constant need to assert control. I do not need to assert control, I replied. I design the systems you all rely on. Transitioning requires proper procedures. My mother placed her napkin on the table and delivered the line that would change everything. Leaning forward with a smirk playing at her lips, she said, You know, Charmaine, you are lucky we even include you in family matters at all. Pity goes a long way. Most people would have given up trying to integrate someone so difficult. The restaurant seemed to fall silent around us, though, objectively, the ambient noise continued. My father continued scrolling on his phone, tacitly approving her statement through his silence. Nathan gave an uncomfortable laugh, glancing around as if concerned someone might have overheard. In that moment, memories cascaded through my mind. My 8th birthday when they forgot to invite my friends. High school graduation when my achievements were minimized. College move-in day when they dropped me off early to attend Nathan's baseball game. Year after year of subtle and overt messages that I was an obligation, not a beloved family member. Externally, I remained calm. I slowly placed my coffee cup on its saucer, feeling the cool ceramic against my fingertips. I straightened my napkin precisely on my lap. When I finally looked up, I smiled. Thank you for your honesty, Mother, I said, my voice steady, despite the earthquake happening within me. She seemed momentarily disoriented by my calm response. She had expected tears or anger or defensive arguments. My composed acknowledgement left her without a follow-up script. Well, she finally said, I am simply being truthful. Family harmony requires accepting one's place. Indeed it does, I agreed, maintaining eye contact until she looked away first. The remainder of brunch proceeded with tense small talk. My father discussed stock market trends without recognizing the irony that his knowledge came from reports I had prepared. Nathan checked his phone repeatedly, likely monitoring sports betting odds. My mother commented on the attire of other patrons, finding flaws in everyone. I observed them as if from a great distance. The subtle family dynamics were so clear now. My father using work to avoid emotional engagement. My mother weaponizing social expectations to maintain control. Nathan enabled and coddled until he became entitled and irresponsible. And me, the competent one, simultaneously relied upon and diminished. The couple at the next table paid their bill and departed, the husband helping his wife with her coat in a gesture of genuine care. The contrast with my own family was stark and painful. What would it be like to be valued simply for existing, not for what services I could provide? When the check arrived, my father handed over his platinum card without glancing at the total. This card was connected to accounts I had established and maintained. The irony was not lost on me. We expect you Tuesday for the design meeting, my mother stated as we prepared to leave. Not a request, but a command. I will check my schedule, I replied noncommittally. Your work can surely spare you for family priorities, she pressed. I smiled again, the decision crystallizing within me. Family priorities. Yes, those are important to consider. We exited the restaurant together, maintaining the appearance of a unified family. My father immediately took a business call. My mother air kissed my cheek without making contact. Nathan asked if he could borrow $5,000 until Friday, confirming my suspicions about his gambling debts. I will see what I can do, I replied, knowing already what my answer would be. As I walked to my car alone, the spring sunshine felt different somehow. The weight I had carried for decades pressed down unbearably, but beneath it, a small seed of resolve had taken root. My mother's cruel words echoed, but now they felt like permission rather than punishment. If pity was the only reason for my inclusion, then perhaps it was time to remove myself from the equation entirely. And in doing so, I would finally establish the boundaries I had failed to create for 35 years. The 20-minute drive from Maison Bleu to my Cambridge apartment passed in a blur. Once inside my home, I methodically hung up my coat, placed my keys in their designated bowl, and walked to my home office. Only then, surrounded by my books and achievements, did I allow the emotional dam to break. Tears came silently at first, then in heaving sobs that bent me forward in my ergonomic desk chair. You are lucky we even include you. The words replayed in an endless loop. 35 years of seeking approval from people constitutionally incapable of giving it. Decades of managing their financial affairs while being treated as an inconvenient obligation. After 15 minutes of raw, emotional release, I straightened up, wiped my face, and opened my laptop. Grief would have its time, but first I needed information and a plan. I logged into the family financial dashboard I had created. The interface showed interconnected accounts, properties, investments, and credit lines. The Wilson family financial empire in digital form, all accessible through authentication protocols I had designed. My father had insisted on convenience over complexity, resulting in a system where one administrator could control everything through master access. That administrator was me. I began systematically documenting everything: account numbers, access credentials, transaction histories, property deeds, investment portfolios, credit lines, insurance policies, trust fund structures, tax filings. I created secure, offline backups of all data, knowing that evidence might be necessary later. The picture that emerged confirmed what I already knew but had ignored. Nathan had withdrawn over $200,000 in the past year from various accounts, most in cash transactions near casinos. My parents had spent nearly $1 million on luxury expenses while complaining about charitable donations I had automated from their accounts. The Vermont cabin renovations had been contracted for $800,000 without proper permits or notification to me as partial owner. The library my grandmother had legally designated for me was scheduled for demolition next week. I opened a secure document and began outlining my options. As I cataloged the financial systems, I controlled the legal rights I possessed, and the leverage available to me, a plan formed with crystalline clarity. For once, the very qualities my family dismissed as difficult would serve me well: my attention to detail, my technical knowledge, and my methodical approach to problem solving. First, I would need legal counsel. I contacted Jordan, my closest friend, who happened to be a corporate attorney. I need a referral for someone specializing in family financial disputes and property rights, I explained after briefly summarizing the situation. Vanessa Hargrove, Jordan replied without hesitation. She handled my sister's complex divorce. Brilliant, ethical, and absolutely fearless. I will text you her contact information. Next, I made a comprehensive list of all family accounts requiring immediate attention. 1. 4 primary credit cards used by my parents. 2. 3 credit cards used exclusively by Nathan. 3. 2 joint checking accounts. 4. The main family investment portfolio. 5. Property management accounts for 5 properties, including the Vermont cabins. 6. Automatic bill payment systems for all properties. 7. Tax preparation access accounts. 8. Trust fund management interfaces. For each, I noted my legal relationship access level and potential actions. As the designated administrator, I had the right to suspend access pending security reviews, a provision my father had approved without reading the fine print years ago. I reviewed my grandmother Elise's will regarding the Vermont property. The document clearly stated, "The library at the Lake Champlain property is bequeathed specifically to my granddaughter Charmaine Wilson, for her lifetime use, to remain intact as a place of learning and reflection." The planned renovation directly violated this legally binding provision. By 9 p.m., my emotions had stabilized and my plan had solidified. I would not act from anger, though anger was justified. I would not seek revenge, though the opportunity presented itself. Instead, I would simply stop protecting them from the consequences of their actions while asserting my own legal rights. I prepared a simple meal of pasta and salad, eating mechanically, while reviewing potential outcomes. My family would be angry. They would threaten and cajole. They might even temporarily seem remorseful, but decades of patterns predicted they would never genuinely acknowledge their behavior or truly change. After dinner, I called Vanessa Hargrove's office and left a detailed message. Then I wrote emails to my supervisor, requesting 2 personal days, and to my therapist asking for an emergency session. Self-care would be essential during this transition. At precisely 11 p.m., I began executing the first phase of my plan. I logged into the master financial dashboard with my administrator credentials. First, I disabled automatic payments on all family credit cards, leaving them active but removing the safety net that prevented late fees. Then I changed the security protocols on the investment accounts to require dual authentication, effectively freezing access until new protocols were established. For the family checking accounts, I left them operational but removed the overdraft protection I had established. Nathan's secret credit cards, obtained through his connection to family accounts, would be the first to feel the effect when his automatic payments failed. Finally, I composed an email to the family attorney regarding the Vermont cabin renovation. Dear Mr. Steinberg, I am writing regarding the planned renovation of the family property at Lake Champlain, Vermont. As you are aware, I am partial owner of this property with specific provisions regarding the library as established in Elise Wilson's will attached. I have not approved the current renovation plans, which include demolition of this space. Please advise the contractors that work must cease immediately pending legal review. I have copied the relevant county permitting office to ensure compliance. I have retained separate counsel in this matter. Please direct future communications to Vanessa Hargrove at Hamilton Legal Partners. Regards, Charmaine Wilson. I sent the email with supporting documentation, attached copying the contractors, permitting office, and Vanessa Hargrove's office. As midnight approached, I completed the final step. I composed a brief factual email to my parents and brother. I am stepping back from management of family financial affairs effective immediately. Security protocols have been updated to protect accounts during this transition. I have also addressed the legal issues regarding the Vermont property renovation through appropriate channels. I will be unavailable for direct communication for the foreseeable future as I reassess my relationship with this family. Charmaine. I clicked send, then systematically logged out of all accounts. I turned off my phone knowing the notifications would begin soon. For the first time in years, I felt the weight of family obligation lift from my shoulders. In its place was not vindication or triumph, but something quieter and more profound, the beginning of freedom. The next morning, I awakened before my alarm, feeling strangely lighter despite the confrontation looming ahead. I performed my usual routine with deliberate mindfulness, treating each action as a small act of self-care. Brewing coffee, stretching, 5 minutes of meditation, simple acts that grounded me in my own life rather than in family drama. At 8 a.m., I powered on my phone to find 17 missed calls, 23 text messages, and 9 voicemails. I ignored them all, instead calling Vanessa Hargrove's office. Her assistant had already scheduled an emergency consultation for 9:30. I will need all documentation regarding property ownership, financial systems, access agreements, and any written communications about the renovation, the assistant advised. Already compiled, I assured her, having spent the early morning hours organizing digital files. Before leaving for the appointment, I took additional security measures. I changed all my personal passwords, removed family members from my emergency contacts, and activated enhanced security on my personal accounts. I also withdrew $4,000 in cash from my personal savings, knowing that financial warfare might escalate quickly. Vanessa Hargrove's office occupied the 14th floor of a sleek downtown building. The attorney herself projected composed confidence. Her gray suit impeccably tailored her handshake firm. "Jordan speaks highly of you," she said, gesturing me to a seat. "He mentioned this involves complex family financial entanglements and property disputes." For the next hour, I outlined the situation with clinical precision, providing documentation for each claim. Vanessa asked incisive questions, taking meticulous notes. "Based on these documents, your position is legally sound," she concluded. "The cabin library provision is explicitly protected in the will. Your administrator access to financial systems was formally granted by your father. The question now is what outcome you desire." "I want 3 things," I replied. "First, protection of my legal rights regarding the Vermont property. Second, complete separation from family financial management without becoming their scapegoat. Third, immunity from any potential accusations of financial impropriety, as I expect them to blame me for Nathan's gambling losses once they become apparent." Vanessa nodded. "Reasonable objectives. I recommend immediate legal notices regarding the property renovation, formal documentation of your resignation as financial administrator, with a comprehensive accounting of the current state of affairs, and preemptive documentation regarding Nathan's unauthorized withdrawals to protect you from false accusations." "How quickly can we proceed?" I asked. "I will have preliminary documents ready this afternoon. The property injunction takes priority since construction is imminent." After leaving Vanessa's office, I proceeded to my bank, where I opened a new account at a different institution than my family used. I transferred the majority of my personal funds, leaving only minimal balances in accounts that could potentially be linked to family finances. By noon, my phone had accumulated 30 additional missed calls. I listened to one voicemail from my father. "What the hell do you think you are doing? Fix this immediately. Your behavior is unacceptable." His voice held the familiar tone of someone who expected immediate compliance. For the first time, I felt immune to its effect. At 1 p.m., I met with my therapist, Dr. Caroline Reed, who had accommodated my emergency request. "This represents a significant boundary establishment," she observed after I recounted recent events. "How are you managing the emotional aftermath?" "Vacillating between relief and guilt," I admitted. "Intellectually, I know this is necessary self-protection. Emotionally, decades of conditioning are hard to overcome." "The guilt is a programmed response," Dr. Reed reminded me. "Your family installed those buttons precisely to prevent this kind of self-advocacy." I spent the afternoon working with Vanessa's team, signing affidavits and reviewing legal notices. By 5 p.m., the following actions had been taken. 1. Emergency injunction filed against the Vermont cabin renovations based on will provisions. 2. Formal resignation as family financial administrator with complete documentation of account statuses. 3. Certified letters prepared for all financial institutions documenting the change in authority. 4. Evidence of Nathan's gambling withdrawals placed in secure legal hold. 5. Security company contracted to change locks on my apartment and install enhanced surveillance. "What should I expect next?" I asked Vanessa as we concluded our session. "Escalation, then negotiation," she replied matter-of-factly. "They will first attempt to intimidate you into reversing course. When that fails, they will offer concessions to regain control. Throughout, they will likely attempt to access accounts and bypass the security measures you implemented." Her prediction proved accurate. By evening, my brother had progressed from angry texts to thinly veiled threats. "You have no idea what you are doing to this family. Dad is considering legal action. Fix this now before you cannot undo the damage." I did not respond, instead focusing on my own security. I contacted my workplace security team, advising them not to allow family members access to the building. I informed my apartment building management about potential unwanted visitors. I even called local police on their non-emergency line to document the situation in case of escalation. That night, I performed a small ritual of reclamation. I deleted the family calendar from my phone, removing birthdays and anniversaries that had dictated my schedule for years. I unsubscribed from my mother's country club newsletter. I removed family photos from my living room, replacing them with art I had always wanted to display but had hidden away to avoid their criticism. Each small act reinforced my resolve. This was not merely financial disentanglement but emotional emancipation. The systems of obligation and diminishment that had defined my family relationships were being dismantled methodically, just as I had once built their financial infrastructure. The next morning brought the first serious consequence. Nathan called from a new number I had not blocked. The credit card company declined my payment, he said, without preamble when I answered. I need $30,000 by tomorrow or there will be serious problems. What kind of problems? I asked calmly. Casino markers, he admitted after a pause. Look, I know you are upset about what Mom said, but this is serious. These are not people you mess with. Your gambling debts are not my responsibility, I replied. But you are the one who disabled the payment systems, he shouted. You did this on purpose. I resigned as administrator after being told my involvement was no longer wanted. I responded evenly. The transition has consequences. Dad is furious. He cannot access the investment accounts. Mr. Phillips at First National Bank can help him establish new security protocols. I provided complete documentation in my resignation letter. This is not a game, Charmaine, Nathan warned. You are destroying the family. The family was destroying me, I replied, then ended the call. Within the hour, my father attempted similar tactics through his attorney, who called Vanessa directly. She later reported that they demanded immediate restoration of all access in exchange for discussing my concerns about the cabin renovation. I advised them that access protocols were changed as part of your formal resignation from financial management duties, with complete documentation provided for continuity, Vanessa explained. Regarding the cabin, I informed them that construction must cease immediately pursuant to the injunction which has already been served to the contractors. By the third day, the initial shock tactics gave way to the predicted negotiation phase. My mother sent an email with a very uncharacteristic apology. Perhaps my words at brunch were hasty. Family disagreements are normal, but should be resolved within the family. Please call so we can discuss restoring the accounts and moving forward together. I forwarded it to Dr. Reed, who responded, classic minimization and attempt to re-establish control. Notice how the apology is vague, includes no specific acknowledgement of harm, and immediately pivots to demands. I did not respond to my mother's message or to subsequent attempts at contact from any family member. Instead, I focused on rebuilding my life without the constant drain of their needs and expectations. Each day, without managing their finances or absorbing their criticism, felt like recovering from a long illness strength, returning gradually but steadily. The first month after what I now called the brunch incident passed in a blur of legal proceedings, financial disentanglements, and personal recalibration. My family cycled through predictable stages: anger, threats, bargaining, and finally strategic reconciliation attempts. Nathan was hit hardest by the immediate consequences. Without access to family funds, his gambling debts came due with no safety net. According to mutual acquaintances, he was forced to sell his luxury condo and move into a modest apartment. His Mercedes was repossessed after 3 missed payments. The casino markers required intervention from my father, who reportedly paid over $100,000 to prevent more serious consequences. My parents faced their own adjustments. The credit card suspensions resulted in embarrassing, declined transactions at social events. My father had to personally contact financial institutions to establish new access protocols, a task he had always delegated. My mother found herself without automated payments for her country club membership, resulting in a late fee and temporary suspension of privileges. The Vermont cabin renovation became a legal battle that quickly expanded beyond the library. County inspectors alerted by Vanessa's filings discovered multiple code violations and insufficient permits. Construction was halted indefinitely, pending comprehensive review. My parents faced potential fines for proceeding without proper approvals. Through all this, I maintained strict communication boundaries. All contact went through Vanessa, who provided me with weekly summaries rather than forwarding every message. I changed my personal email and phone number, sharing the new contact information only with trusted friends and colleagues. My professional life flourished in the absence of family demands. Freed from constant interruptions for tech support and financial management, I completed a major project ahead of schedule, earning recognition from senior management. I accepted a speaking opportunity at a financial technology conference, something I had previously declined due to family obligations that inevitably arose whenever I had important commitments. Sophia and Jordan formed a protective circle around me, vetting invitations and providing sanctuary when memories became overwhelming. Other friends I had neglected while prioritizing family needs reconnected, surprised and pleased by my newfound availability. "You seem different, my friend," Alexis commented during a dinner 6 weeks after the brunch. "More present somehow." "I am learning to exist without constant vigilance," I explained. "Without anticipating criticism or demands." Around the 2-month mark, my brother escalated his attempts to reach me. He appeared at my workplace, but security had been briefed and denied him entry. He left handwritten notes at my old apartment, which the property manager forwarded to me. The messages grew increasingly desperate as his financial situation deteriorated. "Please help me. I know I have a problem. I need your expertise to fix this mess," one note read. For the first time, he acknowledged his gambling addiction, though primarily as leverage to regain my assistance. My parents adopted different strategies. My father attempted to use business connections to pressure me, having colleagues casually mention family concerns during professional interactions. My mother spread strategic misinformation among her social circle, portraying herself as the worried parent of a daughter having a breakdown. "We are giving her space during this difficult time," she told mutual acquaintances, recasting my boundary enforcement as mental instability. 3 months after the brunch, I received an unexpected communication. The Vermont town clerk contacted me directly about the cabin property. "We have received inquiries about selling the property," she explained. "As co-registered owner, your signature would be required. I wanted to confirm you were aware of these discussions." This was the first I had heard of selling the cabin. Apparently facing renovation complications and unable to use the property as planned, my parents were attempting to liquidate the asset without involving me directly. Vanessa immediately filed additional legal notices protecting my ownership interest. "They cannot sell without your consent," she assured me. "This appears to be a pressure tactic." Indeed, the following day brought the first direct communication from my father in months. "The cabin situation has become untenable due to your obstruction. We have interested buyers prepared to offer $7 million. Your share would be substantial. Contact me to discuss terms if you want to be included in this opportunity." The implicit threat was clear: cooperate or be excluded somehow. Vanessa advised that no legal mechanism existed for them to sell without my consent, making this an empty threat designed to prompt engagement on their terms. I did not respond. 4 months after the brunch confrontation, financial reality forced more significant changes in my family's circumstances. Nathan, now attending Gamblers Anonymous according to mutual friends, took a legitimate job at an insurance company far below his previous ersatz executive position. My father, facing investment losses without my management, downsized his company operations and sold one of their vacation properties in Florida. My mother resigned from 2 charity boards citing family priorities, but actually unable to maintain the expected donation levels. Throughout this period, I continued my own healing journey. Weekly therapy sessions helped me recognize and counter the ingrained beliefs about my worth and role. I established a regular meditation practice. I took a pottery class I had always been interested in but had dismissed as impractical. I dated casually for the first time in years, no longer worried about family interrogations about potential partners. 5 months into this new reality, my mother attempted a different approach. She appeared unannounced at a charity event I attended, calculating correctly that I would not create a scene in public. "You look well," she said, intercepting me near the restrooms. She had lost weight, and her designer outfit seemed last season rather than her usual cutting-edge style. "Thank you," I replied neutrally. "I need to return to my table." "This separation has gone on long enough," she continued as if I had not spoken. "Your father and I are prepared to forget recent unpleasantness. Nathan is doing better. The family needs to reunite." "I am not available for that discussion," I stated calmly. "We are still your family," she insisted, a familiar edge entering her voice. "You cannot simply erase 35 years of history." "I am not erasing history," I replied. "I am honoring it by finally responding appropriately to it." I walked away before she could respond, rejoining my friends at our table. Later I learned she had left the event immediately after our encounter. The 6th month brought an unexpected development. Nathan contacted Vanessa directly requesting a mediated meeting without our parents involved. After consultation with Dr. Reed, I cautiously agreed to a short meeting at Vanessa's office with specific parameters established in advance. Nathan arrived looking substantially different than the polished executive image he had previously maintained. His designer clothes were replaced by department store business, casual. The expensive watch was gone. Most notably, the entitled confidence had vanished from his demeanor. "Thank you for seeing me," he began once we were seated in Vanessa's conference room. "I know you have no reason to trust anything I say." "Why did you request this meeting?" I asked directly. He placed a 6-month sobriety chip on the table. "Gamblers Anonymous. Not my first attempt at the program, but the first one that is sticking." "Congratulations," I said sincerely. "Hitting bottom was necessary," he continued. "When you stopped enabling the family, everything collapsed quickly. Dad had to face that his company was over-leveraged. Mom had to confront that her social standing was built on financial quicksand. And I had to admit I was an addict, not just having bad luck." "Why tell me this?" "Because you were right," he said simply. "About everything. And none of us would have changed without what you did. I am not asking for money, or help, or even forgiveness. I just thought you deserved to know that your actions forced growth, at least for me." We spoke for 30 minutes. He detailed his recovery program, his new modest job with its regular hours and accountability, his studio apartment where he lived within his actual means for the first time. He did not ask about my life or attempt to extract promises for future contact. As the meeting concluded, he said something that pierced the careful, emotional walls I had constructed. "I always knew you were the strongest one of us. I just never understood that your kind of strength was the one that mattered." I did not commit to future contact, but agreed to consider it if his recovery remained consistent. It was the first family interaction in 6 months that did not leave me feeling diminished or drained. Our parents, however, maintained their position. When they learned of my meeting with Nathan, they attempted to leverage it as an opening for their own demands. My father sent a formal letter outlining a family reunification plan that primarily involved me resuming management of accounts and withdrawing legal objections to their property decisions. My mother left a voicemail presenting a distorted version of events. "Now that tempers have cooled, we can put this unfortunate misunderstanding behind us." I saved these communications as documentation but did not respond. Their inability to acknowledge the true dynamics at play confirmed that my boundaries remained necessary. 6 months after that fateful brunch, I stood at an inflection point between past and future. The legal matters were largely resolved with formal agreements regarding the cabin property and complete separation of financial affairs. My professional life was thriving, my social connections deepening, my sense of self strengthening daily. The path forward remained uncertain, but for the first time, that uncertainty felt like freedom rather than anxiety. I had learned that family connections, when toxic, were not obligations to be endured, but patterns to be broken. The words that had once wounded me so deeply, "You are lucky we even include you now," seemed like the key that had unlocked my prison door. 6 months evolved into a year. Seasons changed, holidays passed, life continued its forward momentum. I celebrated my 36th birthday with friends at a beachside restaurant without the traditional awkward family dinner where my preferences were always overlooked. Instead, Sophia arranged my favorite seafood menu, Jordan brought a cake in my actual favorite flavor, and a dozen other genuine connections celebrated not who they expected me to be but who I actually was. My therapy sessions with Dr. Reed transitioned from crisis management to deeper healing work. We explored the foundations of my self-worth, the lingering effects of family conditioning, and the careful construction of a life guided by personal values rather than external validation. Healing is not linear, Dr. Reed reminded me during a particularly difficult session addressing childhood memories. There will be days when old patterns feel overwhelming, when the guilt resurfaces, when the longing for family approval returns. Those moments do not represent failure. The professional growth that began with freed attention and energy continued to flourish. I received a significant promotion to Director of Financial Security Systems, leading a team developing next-generation protection protocols. The irony that my family had dismissed these very skills while depending on them was not lost on me. Around the 14-month mark after the brunch incident, I encountered my father unexpectedly. A financial technology conference in Boston brought industry leaders together, including his company, which was presenting on commercial real estate innovation. We came face to face in the exhibition hall, both momentarily frozen in surprise. He had aged visibly. The confident bearing remained, but new lines mapped his face, and his formerly perfect silver hair showed signs of neglect. We regarded each other silently until social convention forced acknowledgement. "Charmaine," he said with a nod. "Richard," I replied, using his first name deliberately rather than Dad. "You are presenting tomorrow," he noted, glancing at my speaker badge. "Yes. Panel on Financial Security Infrastructure." An awkward silence stretched between us, decades of unspoken truths, creating an unbridgeable chasm in the crowded conference hall. "Your brother is doing better," he finally offered. 1 year sober next month. "I know. We speak occasionally." This clearly surprised him. Nathan had kept our cautious reconciliation private, maintaining his own boundaries with our parents as part of his recovery. "Your mother would like to hear from you," he said, his tone carrying the familiar expectation of compliance. "That would require acknowledgement of past patterns and commitment to different behavior," I replied evenly. He stiffened slightly. "Families disagree, Charmaine. Holding grudges serves no purpose. This is not about grudges. This is about patterns of interaction that are harmful. We provided everything for you." He began the defensive justification, rising automatically. "Material provisions without emotional connection or respect," I countered. "But this is neither the time nor place for that discussion." Another industry colleague approached, greeting me warmly and creating a natural conclusion to our uncomfortable exchange. My father nodded curtly and moved away his posture, communicating the familiar dismissal I had experienced throughout childhood. Yet something had fundamentally changed. His disapproval no longer triggered anxiety or inadequacy. I observed it with the clinical detachment of recognizing an ineffective pattern rather than an authoritative judgment. The Vermont cabin situation resolved through legal channels eventually. Unable to renovate as planned due to permit issues and my protected interest in the library, my parents ultimately proposed a buyout of my ownership share. After careful consideration and consultation with Vanessa, I agreed to fair market terms that recognized both my inheritance rights and the property's appreciated value. I used part of the proceeds to purchase a small waterfront cottage on a quiet lake in New Hampshire. The property featured a wall of windows overlooking the water and ample built-in bookshelves throughout. It became my weekend sanctuary, the place where I could hear myself think without the echoes of family criticism. My relationship with Nathan evolved gradually through careful, boundaried interaction. Our monthly coffee meetings provided space for authentic connection without the distorting presence of our parents. He maintained his sobriety, worked his program faithfully, and slowly rebuilt his life on a foundation of accountability rather than entitlement. "I dream about gambling almost every night," he confessed during one meeting. My therapist says that is normal, that the neural pathways take years to reform. What helps when the urges come? I asked. Remembering the consequences. Not just financial, but who I became when I was using. The lies, the manipulation, the person I do not want to be again. This level of self-awareness represented profound change. While our relationship would never be uncomplicated, it contained growing elements of mutual respect, previously absent. My mother proved less capable of evolution. After my encounter with my father at the conference, she launched a campaign of indirect communication through mutual acquaintances, social media overtures, and carefully orchestrated public encounters. Each attempt carried the same underlying message: return to the established patterns without acknowledgement of their harm. I maintained consistent boundaries without malice. When we inevitably encountered each other at a mutual friend's wedding 18 months after the brunch, I remained cordial but distant. She approached during the reception, champagne flute in hand as armor. "You look thin," she observed, the familiar criticism packaged as concern. "Are you eating properly?" "I am well, thank you," I replied, neither accepting nor challenging the implicit judgment. "This estrangement has gone on long enough," she declared, lowering her voice. "People are talking. It reflects poorly on the family." The reference to appearances rather than relationship confirmed nothing fundamental had changed. "I am not estranged," I corrected calmly. "I am establishing healthy interaction patterns." By cutting off your own mother, her voice carried the wounded tone she had perfected over decades. By requiring mutual respect as a condition of close relationship, I clarified. She shook her head slightly, unable to process a paradigm where her behavior, not my reaction to it, created the current reality. "You always were difficult," she sighed, falling back on the familiar narrative. "No," I said with newfound clarity. "I was always clear about my needs and boundaries." That clarity was labeled difficult because it did not serve others' preferences. Our interaction ended shortly after with neither resolution nor escalation. Like my encounter with my father, it confirmed that while people can change, not everyone chooses to. Some remain committed to narratives that preserve their position regardless of the relationship cost. 2 years after the brunch that catalyzed transformation, I sat on the dock at my New Hampshire cottage watching sunset paint the lake in gold and crimson. A journal rested in my lap, its pages filled with reflections on the journey from that momentous Sunday to the present. The healing process had been neither linear nor simple. Certain dates still triggered emotional echoes. Holidays carried complicated memories. Dreams sometimes replayed old family dynamics with painful clarity. Yet the overwhelming trajectory pointed toward wholeness rather than fragmentation, growth rather than stagnation. I had learned crucial lessons through this painful but necessary separation. True family is defined by mutual respect and care, not biological connection or obligation. The chosen family I had built around me demonstrated this daily through authentic interaction. Boundaries are not punishments, but essential elements of healthy relationships. By establishing and maintaining clear expectations about treatment, I had created space for genuine connection where possible and protection where necessary. Financial entanglement often masks emotional manipulation. The appearance of generosity through material provision while withholding emotional support creates toxic dependency. True independence requires both material and emotional autonomy. Healing begins with acknowledging reality, rather than preserving comfortable illusions. By naming the dynamic accurately, "You are lucky we even include you," I had been able to respond appropriately rather than continuing patterns of diminishment. Most importantly, I had learned that self-worth cannot be externally validated. The approval I had sought for decades could never have fulfilled its promise because it was conditional on my utility rather than my inherent value. True security came from within, from living authentically aligned with personal values rather than external expectations. As darkness settled over the lake, I closed my journal and watched stars emerge in the clear northern sky. The future remained unwritten. Perhaps continued healing would eventually allow new forms of family relationship based on mutual respect rather than historical patterns. Perhaps some connections would remain necessarily distant for emotional health. Either outcome represented success rather than failure, because both honored authentic needs rather than obligatory roles. The journey from that brunch table to this peaceful evening had been arduous but necessary. The words that once wounded me now seemed like the catalyst for liberation, the moment when denial could no longer sustain itself against obvious truth. In acknowledging that I was included out of pity, my mother had inadvertently released me from seeking inclusion on such harmful terms. Have you ever had to set boundaries with someone you loved even when it was painful? Have you found your own voice after years of being diminished? The journey to self-worth is rarely easy, but always necessary. Share your story in the comments, and remember to like and subscribe if this resonated with you. Thank you for listening to my journey, and may you find the courage to honor your own truth, whatever that may require.